All right, Stanley Nixon, answer me a question. Do you remember? I guess I do. Do I remember seeing a young Steve Austin in Continental Wrestling in Gaston, Alabama? I don't think so.
Not that I remember. We wanted him real bad.
Yeah, him and Rod.
Another guy we wanted was Rod Price. We wanted him real bad, but it wasn't going to happen.
I can get Rod
we
now.
wanted him bad, though. They would have been great. They were great when they were working for Jarrett in Texas. And we would have loved to have got him.
Yeah, they would have been. Steve Austin would have been a great. Well, I guess he was Steve Williams at the time when we saw him. I don't think he was Steve Austin yet. But you got another dream match: Bruiser Brody, and Strowman. I'll give that with the Bruiser Brody. There wasn't many people that could beat Bruiser Brody. I'll tell you that right now. He would have hurt old Strowman. You know, big old dude though Strowman is. I have to give him that.
Oh yeah, I'm taking nothing away from him, but Bruiser didn't go under unless it was his idea, and it was usually not his idea.
Yeah. Tyrone said, guys, Black Saturday just around the corner. As I look back around 82, 83 time frame, Georgia has it all. Orndorff, Piper, Reed, Sawyer. What do you think happened to the Georgia territory? Getting Jim Barnett out of the territory was not the smart thing.
That was the kiss of death.
You know, we'll have to do a show on Jim Barnett. I know Ron Fuller had just done one. I think it's the Super Studcast. He done a show on Jim Barnett. Jim Barnett had a lot of power. And I think that Vince McMahon's takeover of territories and the idea all came from Jim Barnett. I think he was the brains behind all that whole takeover. And when they got rid of Jim Barnett said, well, good luck. That's what he was saying. Well, good luck. Vince McMahon Jr. wants to do this, and I will help him achieve that. And he did do so. And I think that was the downfall. I think if he would have been kept in power, that would have never happened. I don't even know if Vince McMahon would have happened. I don't even think the WWF would have happened. I don't think Jim Barnett would have been the guy that was running the world. And I don't know that he would have done it. But he knew where people were sending in stuff from WTBS, and that's where he knew he could go and draw. I think that's the reason they ended up running Gainesville, Florida in the 80s, because they had so many letters coming in from Gainesville, Florida. They knew they could go to Gainesville, Florida and draw a great house. So they worked a deal with Eddie Graham to go to Florida. You remember, Rodney, we went to one of those shows.
Yeah. We sold some about $1,000 worth of programs that night, so we was very happy.
We were very happy. It was a good payoff for a 13-year-old kid. Through this as fast as I can. Tyrone said, as a kid growing up in Fort Valley, Georgia, I think Georgia Championship Wrestling was the best promotion in wrestling. The mid-'70s and early '80s were the best. Yes, I will agree with you, Tyrone. Great time for wrestling.
We were right there with you.
We're right there. Putting everywhere. David Lawson says Stan Hansen, best ever.
Because it was real.
Jeffrey said everybody throws a clothesline now, but only Stan through the lariat.
That's right.
I'm telling you, I bet there's 7,000 clotheslines through in a wrestling during a week. There is way too many.
And Stan Hansen invented the clothesline that they do now. He really did, because the rest of them was doing like a run where they would hang up, not.
And if you do it
run through, but they kind of.
If you do a clothesline right, you can't slap your leg. I'm just throwing.
Oh, is that right? Darn. They banned the slapping of the leg. Nobody will be able to work.
Tyrone said that the show was so unique. Not only did they have Georgia stars, but they would show clips of other stars from other promotions, especially on the Best of Sunday show.
Yeah,
you are right. So,
and it's funny that the Sunday show on TBS actually drew more ratings than the Saturday show. That I never did. I never knew that. Did finally said and told us one day. He said, "No, the Sunday show does better in ratings than the Saturday."
And we talk about Jim Barnett because Jim Barnett had such a strong hold. I don't think Ole Anderson, who took it over, I don't think he understood the business side of it. When he tells people he ran Georgia Championship Wrestling, no, he was the booker of Georgia Championship Wrestling. He didn't run it. And he did from March 83 till that 84. But if we see that didn't come out too good for him in a year's time. So He didn't understand what Jim Barnett had to do to keep all the officials happy. He didn't understand what was going on a day-to-day basis. And we're not saying that only Anderson didn't know how to book, but I don't know that he really knew the whole concept of running a territory and running a whole business. Don't you agree, Rodney?
Yeah. And in the end, Barnett had the pockets where Ole really didn't.
Yeah.
All of us don't run the wrestling because we don't have anything in the pockets.
Yeah. I'd be running wrestling today if I had some money.
Right.
Johnny Rose. There's Johnny Rose. That's who you're going to do the show with?
Yeah.
Greg said, was there a single wrestler that made you guys a wrestling fan? Me, Mr. Wrestling #2. Rodney?
Yep.
And Bearcat Brown. Bearcat
was great. We love Bearcat Brown.
Lynn Rossi.
We love Tojo too.
Yeah. Lynn Rossi was my guy. I loved Lynn.
You know, I don't know that I ever got to see Lynn Rossi wrestle.
He was something, man.
Michael said one of the first 5 matches we were in Trenton, New Jersey, his cousin Luke and Abdullah battled to a double count out. Myself and the other boys were sent to stop them out, and it was one mean chair I took from Abdullah. What a night! I was believe 1991. Well, yeah, if you was going to get something from Abdullah Butcher, he was going to make it look good. There's no doubt. Tyrone said, no one mentions the feud between Wrestling 2 and Dick Slater where the loser would have to wear a turkey mask. Yes, those were great times.
They're beautiful. We were there every Thursday night while that was going on in that hot Rome Memorial Gym. Reese's would melt inside the paper and you had to lick them out. Oh, we loved it. We were packed like sardines on those bleachers sitting at the Rome Memorial Gym.
David Lawson said Black Saturday was in 1984. John Kennedy wants to say hello to Jack.
Hey, John.
Michael said, learn how to work. There is a difference between working and entertaining, I think. I think there's a difference in that.
Well, the old story is anybody can wrestle, but it takes a special few that actually learn how to work. There's a difference.
What was the capacity of Atlanta Auditorium, Rodney? I don't. And it pretty well was sold out almost every week.
And they had chairs and chair risers on the stage too at City Auditorium. That's where me and Brett would sit where we were at.
Pat Rose loved the territory days.
Yeah,
Pat.
On Friday Night Live on YouTube. This Friday Night Live on YouTube, we're going to talk about some things from Mid-South Wrestling. We're going to talk a little bit about Pat Rose on that program and what we felt needed to be done in Mid-South Wrestling in 1984, and we'll be talking about that Friday. But because Pat Rose should have been used a whole lot better than he was. Greg said, when I was young, it seemed like the crowd is more into the shows, more involved. I agree. There's a lot of quiet.
Let me tell you,
going on in the wrestling business.
Let me tell you something.
There, like they're watching a tennis match.
The worst thing I remember saying, and it's been years now, is Kurt Angle taking a moonsault off the top of the cage and missed. Instead of the people being concerned about Kurt Angle, they're standing and clapping, saying, "This is awesome," instead of being concerned. That's because you delegitimized the show. You delegitimized the show. And that's nobody's fault except for your own. That you don't have enough that the people care about what happens to your wrestlers. They're just there to watch the wreck. It's terrible. I thought it was awful. In fact, one of the reasons I don't watch it today. Right there.
Well, one reason I don't watch it too much today, because I can't watch 8 hours wrestling in a week time. Man, that's just way too much wrestling to watch.
I just couldn't get over it. I mean, I just couldn't get over it.
I got to watch Adam the Woo on YouTube occasionally. You know
yeah.
Don't look at me. I watch it all.
I do watch it occasionally. I don't have time to watch it, doing research and stuff on this show. It takes a lot of time. Adam Parsons says, completely agree with you, Rodney. No more angles, no more storytelling, local towns. Personal issues draw money was a mantra Memphis lived off for years, and nobody can tell you better than that than Jerry Jarrett. And I know.
Right, and you know what? If he wanted to draw a big rating, Lawler and Dundee.
Oh, Tyrone said
Jerry Lawler, and if you put Jerry Lawler and Jimmy Hart on TV, that's bad.
Well, folks, we were supposed to talk about Jerry Lawler and Andy Kaufman. We will try to talk about him next week, and we were going to talk a little bit briefly about Hulk Hogan, but we got into other stuff, and if we talked about them right now, we'd be here till 1 o'clock in the morning. So we will miss it. He said, "I think Ole missed the boat on Tito Santana." You know, I think he might have. I think he did miss the boat on Tito Santana, but I think he missed the boat on a lot of people. Bobby Eaton, Dennis Condrey. Is there anybody else I'm missing, Jack, that he missed the boat on at those times that he could really push?
I don't think we got enough time to go through that list, but yeah, there were a lot of guys.
Yeah, that he could have really done some good stuff with him. He didn't. David said, "Awesome story on Lightfoot." Yeah, that was a funny story. Loved Michael Hayes. I was a huge Free Bros fan. Bam Bam is one of my all-time favorite. Yeah, we loved Michael Hayes. Michael Hayes could get more heat than anybody in the wrestling business. You know, not only could he get it as far as the fans, but boy, he could really get the promoters riled up.
I wrestled Michael several times, and we were going into the finish was Michael's doing the drop kick, and they were supposed to go into the finish. And I remember looking at him and telling him, "How far do I need to bend over for that?"
Poor old Michael. We should make fun of him.
He laughed.
It was fun.
But he was equally as mean. So
Terry Gordy, always a favorite of ours.
Jeffrey said Lightfoot is still around, 67 years old, still around.
Let's get in touch with him, see if he wants to jump over the top rope.
They really didn't at that time. They did some stupid stuff back then. Tim Horner, they forgot who they are entertaining. They are entertaining themselves and the boys in the back, not the fans.
Hallelujah. Hallelujah. Amen, my brother Tim. Amen, brother Tim.
People, we will not be sending the collection plate through the internet at the end of this. So we will. You don't have to worry about that. We will not be doing that.
I'm sorry, I have to drink tonight.
Adam Parsons, you the man. David Lawson's, y'all are awesome. Thank you. Tyrone Spivey said, "Guys, when Turner purchased wrestling in 1988, who would you have picked to run WCW? Hiring Jim Herd was a big mistake. So many missed opportunities." Jack, who would you have hired?
Anybody but Jim Herd.
Rodney, who would
honestly, I would have hired your dad.
I think he would have been good because he would have gave him a product, which he did fight with Jim Herd that year he was there. But Rodney, who would you have hired?
I actually would have. I would have hired Ole, because he would have been. No matter what you think of Ole, he stabilizes things, and when things are out of whack, he comes in and settles it because everybody's against him. Everybody's a team at that point. It's them against Ole. And so Ole is a stabilizing force, and the buck stops with him. And, we may say things about him here on this channel, but I have nothing but respect for Ole Anderson.
No, he knew what he was doing. I think I would have got Ron Fuller. I think I would have had Ron Fuller in that position. I think he would have knew, especially he would have knew how to take the talent and really put them together in the right. Because poor old Jim Herd. I mean, the Ding Dongs. Richard Sartan, who was it? Richard Sartan and
Jim Evans.
I
thought one of his stellar ideas was a RoboCop.
Well, and the Hunchbacks. Don't forget about the great idea that he had.
Wow.
Wait a minute, we should talk about that. AEW will have some Hunchbacks next week on their television program, so you'll have to do something not to beat them. That was crazy. That was crazy. See where the wrestling business started in 1988 when corporate America decided they wanted to take over professional wrestling and not wrestling people.
And think about it. It has evolved to what they thought it was. They didn't know the product anyway. They have developed what they thought of, corporate America thought of it back then. It's what it is now. Exactly what it is.
Oh, Don Sanders. How you doing?
Nut.
Good to see you with us tonight. We're going over tonight. Our whole plans never went through tonight, so we'll have to do those next week. But Matthew says, "I would like to slap Jack Lord." How rude!
Well, he kind of owes me one.
Oh,
Well, there you go. David Lawson said, any stories on Ray Candy? I always was a fan. Ray was, the thing that I remember Ray Candy the most is, do you remember the Championship Wrestling from Georgia episode where Thunderbolt Patterson came out on television?
yeah.
And Ray Candy at the time was calling himself Kareem Mohammed. Y'all remember this? And he come out and he said, hey, Ray, he said, don't call me Ray. My name is Kareem Mohammed. 1/2 for the Zambui Express. Don't ever call me Ray.
Don't ever call me Ray. We use that forever. Don't ever call me Ray.
I just remember that. Like, I mean, we
And
didn't have,
Ray, what are you doing? What are you doing, Ray?
it was good television for Championship Wrestling from Georgia at the time. But did you remember seeing that, Jack?
I do.
But Ray Candy, we really never hung around Ray Candy. So, and I don't remember any stories that Ray never did anything crazy in the wrestling business.
Oh, Ray was a professional. We liked Ray. Ray's a good guy.
David Lawson, Pat Rose was awesome. Yes, he was, and he should have been used so much.
You need to get some money to David Lawson.
Yeah, we will.
Credit card, PayPal, whatever. Go ahead.
It said Steve Burton said, if Tommy Rich would have went to the WWF, do you think he would have been a big star as he was in Georgia in the early 80s? Jack?
Nope. Vince had a vendetta against Southern wrestlers, and he would have been prime example of. He probably would have wore the turkey outfit to wrestling.
Yeah, I don't think so. I don't think Tommy would have lasted there anyway. So, Buzz Sawyer didn't last there. I think he was there for 2 months, and I would doubt that very seriously to Tommy Rich. What do you think, Rodney?
No, he wouldn't have lasted. In fact, he didn't last with Jim Crockett either.
No, Matthew Dwayne Smith. Hello, is that the guy that wanted to smack you?
Yeah, he's just all over the place.
He's in line. He's standing in line, waiting for the slap.
Chris says, how is Ole doing? I don't know. Has anybody heard how Ole is?
I saw somebody post about him the other day. He's not doing well.
Greg said, good show. Thank you. Scott Morris fell in love with GWF. Is that the Global Wrestling Federation?
Yeah, I think so.
David, y'all are so entertaining. If you're ever in Tuscaloosa close by, let me buy you dinner.
Oh,
I'm coming to I gotta go, guys.
We will be there, and take us to Dreamland Barbecue. That's where we want to go. Dreamland Barbecue.
Love Dreamland.
Ole missed out on the Undertaker. Yes, he didn't think he could draw any money. Yes, he did say that. But he said the same thing about Hulk Hogan. And at the time, he couldn't have really drew any money because he was Sterling Golden at the time, and he wasn't that good in 1979. It took him a while. It took him to really, when he went to work for Vince for that year. I think that's when he learned what to do and what not to do, what he could do and what he couldn't do. So whoever was there, Chief Jay Strongbow, whoever was taking care at the time, took some time to really develop him that whole year that he stayed in the WWF. All right, I think we got one more. David said, "Hey, have a PayPal."
PayPal. So if you get Pat, you just PayPal. He'll take care of you.